Hello and welcome to Kohler Commentary. It's Joey. And this is a super impromptu, spontaneous episode as we end the era of our friend Becky Lee living with us for 2 months here at the Kohler house. And my brother is also joining us today because he has inspired us and inspired many to watch a Hulu series called Pink Lie. And let me tell you guys, no cap, it is better than Singles Inferno. That's right. And so what just started out as like harmless viewing became some harmless viewing, right? We did not really binge much, but we did watch it together every night and it brought us great joy together. And me being an Enneagram coach and the gratitude I have that Becky is well-versed in the Enneagram, had us do homework and say, oh, who is everyone's Enneagram? Because Pink Lie, if you don't know the premise, it's about people that come into a house to kind of date each other, but they all have this lie that they don't want to share. And so in that, what do you guys hear? A core fear? Do I dare say? I think so. And so as we kept watching it, we're like, oh, this guy might be like this. And this. So I was like, let's just, write it down and compare our notes. And then we said, why not just make it a podcast episode? So we're here today and we have Oppa Alex Chi hosting us for the rest of this episode because our other goal is to someday figure out what type he is as well. And before we do this all together, I would like to put a disclaimer that in the Enneagram, you should never type somebody on your own. But as you will find out, Becky and I and our type, we just want to fully know and be known. And part of it is just, having this innate and analysis part in us. And so this is for fun, but none of this is for sure. You have to ask the person yourself, that's themselves, and they will go on that journey on their own time. But that's just a disclaimer. But yeah, not that on the side, I'm always typing people. Let's begin. So for some of you that may not know our guest today, Rebecca.
What the?
Becky Lee. She hails from H-Town, but she has joined the Superior City in Texas.
Superior? Who says Superior?
And she has been residing in the superiorest house in the northern suburbs. Becky and I are both Enneagram 2s. But our wings are very different and our personalities are also very different. But what unites us is definitely the deep understanding of our motives. And so that's definitely been a connecting factor as we have been living life closely for the last 2 years and pretty much the last 2 months in the same place.
Yeah.
Becky, would you like to say anything? Introduce yourself. Welcome to the podcast. Finally. Woo!
Thank you. I'm so honored to be here. This is my first time on a podcast.
You guys haven't done a podcast together?
No, we've been meaning to. I think someday when we do the topic of wings, I'll invite her back on because I would love to talk about how a type and the wings can really make someone different. But yeah, we haven't done many together. Although she has very many stories I would like to have her on for. Maybe someday she'll come back and share one of those stories.
Yeah, one day.
At a later time. She has been a faithful listener, though, let me say. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I work as a licensed professional counselor, which most people don't know what that is. So it's what I say is usually like a mental health counselor. And so this was years ago. 2019, I took an Enneagram workshop with one of my friends because I think that's when the Enneagram craze started to pick up and I really got into it. For me personally, I haven't really liked any personality tests because it felt so put in a box. But one thing that I really liked about the Enneagram is that while it does cover the basic desires and the core fears and stuff like that, it really encourages everyone that we want to be all the numbers. And so instead of putting people into boxes, it's understanding people that even if we have the same cores and desires, it can look so different because we tap into all the numbers in different capacities and things like that. And if you know me, I'm a very nuanced person about things. And so that's something I really appreciated. But I guess also a disclaimer of if you do get into like Enneagram and stuff like that, like what Joey was saying of not like typing people or like whatnot. It's helpful to understand like, oh, that must be your tendency. Oh, it must impact you in this way. Like, I think it helps generate better understanding towards people, but never want to be like, this is who you are. Like, this is your number, so that's all you are, and not wanting to.
Yes, preach, girl.
But yeah, so yeah, that workshop really got me like sucked into of like, wow, like this does help even me have a better understanding of myself, of like why I do the things that I do, or like what makes certain things come up. And so that's been really cool for myself. So
yeah, I think self-discovery is the best tool for the Enneagram. And so I would love it, Oppa, if you could figure that out so we can go on a journey of your self-discovery. So now to the left of me, I have Oppa Alex Chi. We're deciding between a few types as well, but we won't disclose that yet. Maybe you guys can even, like not do what we just disclosed not to do, But Oppa's going to guide us in this conversation so that he could even learn more about the Enneagram and we could have a little bit of fun. So here we go.
Well, this all started because my good friends Andrew Song and Julie Song recommended the show called Pink Lie. They told me it was the best Korean dating show that they've seen, and I 100% trust their taste.
wow, 100%.
Yeah, so I watched it over the holidays, and I really enjoyed the show, and I've been a big supporter of it. It's on Hulu, which makes it not as easily accessible to people. Back in LA, I've probably seen the first couple episodes way too many times because I would watch it with different friend groups, and then I would have to give them my Hulu account for them to continue watching it. But same thing happened here. During the holidays, me and Inji watched the first 2 episodes, and then I came back 2 months later, and she hadn't watched anything further. So I was like, hey, Inji, you should finish this show that we started a long time ago. So, but yeah, I mean, I watch it because I love the drama. And watching it with 2 Enneagram coaches was quite interesting and also very insightful. So this should be a very fun conversation. First off, the show is called Pink Lie on Hulu. Spoiler warning, we're going to give away the ending and give away a lot of what happens in the show. So if you haven't seen it yet, I will highly recommend watching the show first. Very easy binge. If you need Hulu, hit me up. I'll give you my login info, and then come back to this episode and see if you agree with these expert opinions about the characters. What were your thoughts about the show?
The only thing I didn't like about it, or was hard for me to get on to it, was that we were given this disclaimer that it was the best dating show. And that this person that recommended it to you said it was better than Singles Inferno. And I actually really binged Singles Inferno. So I was like, it's not better. And I was watching it at that same time. And that's why I couldn't seem to finish it. I couldn't get into this storyline of a reality show when I was already watching another reality show. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the only thing. But once I started watching it, oh my gosh, I just got hooked. I think it's so much better because you can read deeper into each of these characters, which is something I enjoy doing as a 2. And I got to do that alongside another 2 or maybe another 2 2s, depending on types. And so one thing I will say I didn't enjoy, it's not necessarily, I get why you have to change your name, but I guess it would be hard at the end for any of these relationships to still feel as authentic in the outside world because the person you fell in love with had a different name, right? So it's like Matt fell in love with Eunji and now I'm trying to be Joey. Does he love Joey? I don't know. Probably because we're married with kids, but you know what I'm saying? They're not there yet. And so that depth hasn't been reached. And so suddenly it's Chansol to Chanhyak, you know what I'm saying?
I don't think he was Junsu.
No, I'm not trying to say the real name.
For the sake of this interview, we're gonna just use their fake names.
Yeah, Chansol, but Chansok is not his real name. I was just trying to give that's nobody's name. I'm just trying to say if you fall in love with Chansol, You know
I'll
what?
cut you off, Becky. What do you have to say? All right, we got it.
Oh, that's funny. So this is where you can see our differences because I actually typically don't watch shows like this, like by myself. And so I think usually it's like, oh, if people want to watch like the dating shows or like reality TV or whatnot, I don't really care. It's like if someone wants to watch it, sure, like just watch it, and I don't really think much of it. But I think same as what Angie was saying of like when we started watching it, you get to really know more of like their stories and the fact that they have this lie that's true and how they navigate through that and how they're like building these relationships. Like there was so much more depth to it than just like a regular dating show that's out there. And so yeah, we both got sucked in, and I think I got more sucked in because Unji was so sucked in, and then it was just like we were sucked in together. And so I think it was definitely way more fun watching it together than if I had watched it by myself, though, I will say.
I felt like we were our own little panel, just like Hija, Rao, Sum Sum, and Wonseok. Sunmin.
Speaking of, that was why I really liked the show, is because the MCs were really great, really funny, and they were very honest. It really felt like we were on the couch with them. Respect! All right. All right, the first contestant whose secret we found out was Sohani. Excuse my Korean pronunciation. And her lie is she used to be an adult actress. What is her Enneagram? Based on 12 episodes of the show, what do you guys think is her Enneagram and why? 1, 2, 3.
6. Yeah.
Type 6 is a loyal guardian. The core fear is fearing fear itself, being without support, security, or guidance, being blamed, targeted, alone, or physically abandoned. The core desire is having security, guidance, and support. The core weakness is anxiety, scanning the horizon of life and trying to predict and prevent negative outcomes, especially worst-case scenarios, remaining in a constant state of apprehension and worry. Then the core longing is, quote, you are safe and secure, end quote.
So, okay, Becky and I both said 6. So what we're going to do is we'll just share like 1 or 2 insights of why we chose what we chose. So Honey was one of the harder ones for me. She was the first secret that was revealed. And later, it's also because nobody was interested in her secret, actually, which is why it was just revealed by the television itself. But I think when I see a lot of things, like one thing was even in the guy that she chose, it was constantly the same person, right? Like in a loyal sense, like ride or die, kind of that loyal guardian. I think I read into her wing, or not her wing, her 3, because her path would be weak part as a 3, and maybe with image or in that arena, that could have been more of like a weak, like a stress path in her life, and that would be what kind of like keeps her back. I don't know. That was like something I felt. Honestly, for Honey, though, that was like least confident one. But I felt like she was definitely a 6. And if she was a 6, her subtype, there's one subtype in there, which I know listeners might not know about that, but it's so much fun. But there's a subtype that can get confused as a type 1. And so that's where I was kind of in between as well. She did seem a little reactive at times, which is also a style in interpersonal settings. And so that's also a reason I chose her. What about you, Becky?
Yeah, so I think for me, 6 was actually the first one that like came up for me when I thought of her, because I think I didn't think much about her like beginning journey as much, but it was more so like the last few episodes, especially at the end. Like no matter how many times she got rejected by this guy, she was still so devoted to him. And I think it's like she kept saying, oh, he makes me feel safe. Oh, he gives me what I need. Even though he didn't like reciprocate that with her, just the fact that she received that from him kept her staying in that, to be like the loyalist of like, I chose you and I know why I chose you. I'm going to choose you no matter what, even if you don't choose me. And I think like one of the things that like about 6s is like they value security whether or not they have control. And I think like, I felt like I saw that in her. Like she didn't care if she didn't get her way, but because she felt that security, which is kind of ironic because that's not secure, but she felt secure from that and she wasn't willing to let that go. And so in my mind, it was like, oh, Yeah, I see a lot of 6 tendencies within her.
I think that's a good point. Like what reality is versus what you feel, which is why we love the Enneagram, because it's all about the inner. And yeah, because Hanu always exuded control and he exuded like a alpha mentality.
Yeah.
She could feel a safety that was very toxic, actually.
Yeah.
She was also and she was also the oldest contestant. So I know there was a lot of like anxiety that we saw a lot of anxiety in her. One,
Yeah.
because her secret was like
Yeah,
really
the
taboo,
biggest,
definitely.
yeah.
But yeah, that was definitely obvious.
Well, also, when they showed all the lies at the end, she was so, like, the amount
Shaking
of...
and,
Yeah,
like,
I think just that, yeah.
That part is what made me feel like she could have like more of a shame or like a heart triad type because of that. But maybe that's why there's like the 3 path too that I was thinking about. Oh my gosh, do we sound so scholarly?
Okay, the next person is Han Bottom. Apologize, my bottom. Okay, go ahead. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
2.
Oh! I would actually specify like 5 wing 4.
Okay.
Him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Unji actually put a wing 2. Unji said 2 wing 1.
Oh, interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for me, seeing, and I know that's like a very, like, when it comes to, so the 5 is very, like, more so about, like, the investigator, the observer, and is a lot more, like, facts-based. And I think what kept coming to mind when I thought about Padam was they're like, oh, he's so prudent. He just does what needs to be done instead of putting the emotion into it. And so I think and then also, like, 5 also need that sense of security as well, and they don't like to tap into their emotions as much because it feels like out of control. And I think thinking about like how he is very dedicated to like working hard, doing these things, it's like a matter of fact thing. Like, I know I have to do this for my family, and so I'm doing this without even thinking about it. But then the wing 4 part, I had to think a lot about his too, but the wing 4 part came in when he had that conversation with Taon, when she was upset and he followed after her and he like encouraged her and he's like, I don't want you to like feel this way, and like encouraging her and all this. I was like, whoa. I was like, okay. Because usually 5s are a lot more matter of the fact, this is what it is. And like, yeah. So I think when I thought about those tendencies of like, he's so head-based about everything, and it's like, this is the situation, so this is what I'm going to do about it, and this is that, and then whatever, whatnot. But then I also like, and he doesn't evoke a lot of emotions per se. And I think it is also because like maybe he is a little socially awkward as well. That made me kind of feel that rigidness more. But then like through his conversations, I could see he is in tune with other people's emotions, even though he doesn't necessarily exude them so much himself.
Interesting. I chose a 2 because, well, that's our type too, right?
Yeah.
So he definitely doesn't seem like us outwardly, but I think for him, the motive of the fact that the things he does is for his parents. So I saw a people-pleasing side in the sacrifice he had to make because of the poverty that they grew up in. So every decision is based on like paying for them, and I must do this, I must do that. Like his lie is that he pays 50% of his income goes to his family, and he only spends about 20% on himself. And so I kind of like also thought about Appa, our father, in a way, because I think I was shocked when I thought he was a 2. Maybe we thought he was I don't know. Not that my brother thought anything, because I was the only one that knew the Enneagram at that time. But I think the more I realized, it's like he seems like Padam is very dutiful and doesn't show as much emotion, but it's people oriented. And I think even when he does chase after Town, or he's very relational with what's his face, Chansol too. I feel like there's that connection, and the 1 is the more rigidness maybe, but I don't know, like I need to do this, I should do this for my family, I should do this for them. So that came out for me, especially in his lie. I think without the lie, I would have also thought he was 5. And I think he could be in that he has a high 5. But I think the lie part makes me sway there.
Oh, that's so interesting because I interpret that as more so like for me, like I have a basic fear written as like being useless or incompetent, but then it also goes into like naturally wise, knowledgeable, insightful, strong desire to understand, very observant, very analytical, studying, like they articulate well, problem solve. When others are overswept emotions, they're able to stay detached from those emotions and think clearly and calm and rational and be generous and offer insights. So I think when I read that, I was like, oh, that sounds like him to me. But I think when you think of it that way, it makes sense too, of like that core desire of wanting to do that for his family. Right. That does make sense too.
And both a 2 and a 5, I believe for both of them, they have a 8 path, so separately, not a 2 and a 5 aren't related, but they both have an 8 in their path. And I do think when Padam, like for Padam, an 8 might be a stress way, which I don't think we were able to see, but in the course I take, it's also an opportunity for like the healthiest version. I do think towards the end when he was trying to be more firm with Sulbi, his 8 came out, which once again could confirm a 2 or a 5 both. But yeah.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Huh. Interesting.
I think we both sound like we both stand firm with our thoughts, though.
I think this goes to show why we can't like
exactly,
people,
but
right?
it's cool to deduce, if anything. There was one thing on dutiful styles, and that's why I ended up choosing the 2 on that. But his personality is definitely more 5.
Yeah.
For sure.
Bottom's the best. All right.
Bottom's the best.
Yeah, MVP.
Anything else to add?
Nope.
All right, well, let's move on to contestant 3. Bachelor B. 1, 2, 3.
9.
Whoa, we're getting different ones.
No, but that makes sense because.
But honestly, I didn't have one for her. It's just like what my gut was telling me based on like certain things that I remembered from the show. So I don't know like how much I can back it up.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll go first for Sulbi. I actually wrote 2, 4, 6, 7. I don't know. And so I think
confusing.
with that, I decided she's a 9 because she exemplifies a lot of types. I also felt like in conflict, she withdrew. Like she went to her room or she went away a lot of times. And so doesn't mean it has to be these types, but 4s, 5s, and 9s tend to withdraw more. And she also did show a lot of like optimistic types of traits, which is why I was like, well, 2, 7, 9s tend to be the more like, oh my gosh, always happy, always like he kind of thing. And so then I went to a 9 also because I felt like she could be so many things. But yeah, I didn't feel super confident about her, but I did feel like when she was healthy or in her health, a 3 would be in her path. So I felt comfortable with my answer. And then I felt like in her stress, a 6 would be in her path as well. And so, she does want like a sense of security or worst case scenarios if those times came about, but we couldn't see it there. And then like, even like, like her lie about being a freelance weathercaster or forecaster is because it might not show security in a sense, or stability. And so that part got to make me think like, oh, that might be a stress part for her. But like overall, her tendencies seem to be like a 9, maybe because I couldn't figure it out. But yeah, what about you?
Actually, like I like.
You like that?
Yeah, I do.
But the 3, I think, is in her path.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, because that's interesting because the 3 goes to 9 or 6 as well. So I think, but for me, I think thinking about like her, what I guess where my thoughts took me was whenever things didn't work out the way that she wanted it to, she would get so frustrated and she would get so mad. And then also like, even though in the end she chose Padam, like she did so many things to get Hangyeol to like flirt with her or like do certain things and like get that attention. So I felt like there's a part of her towards the end when like people are getting closer to choosing someone where she just did whatever she could to like quote unquote achieve success of like popular or getting someone to like her. And so I think that's where like my mind took me of like, oh, maybe a 3, but I didn't really have like solid basis for
Right,
that.
right.
Because I agree with you. I think in general too, like she was very even keeled, but I think to see the moments where she would get really mad was like, huh, interesting. Because I feel like 9s don't usually tap into that as much, but showed her getting angry a lot, like several times. So
I
don't know.
She was a tough one because I feel like but I don't have much more to say.
I don't either. Yeah, it's still.
Oppo be giving us the hard ones first.
Alrighty, let's go with Hong Hanu. 1, 2, 3.
8.
Duh. Okay, your turn. Your turn.
Gosh. Okay.
A triggering man.
Truly. Yeah. Okay. So Hanu, so we both said 8. I think for him, the way it was just so interesting to me to see how, like, even though he would say he felt so insecure about his secret, the way his demeanor of like interacting with other people despite that was so frustrating to me, of like, oh, I'm better than you and I'm gonna tell you what to do, and like gaslighting other people of like, I didn't do anything wrong, it was you, like you did that, you put that on yourself, and like sweet talking and like doing things to like lead other people on just to be liked too. I think just like that, because like their deadly sin is like lust, right? So getting, even if you don't necessarily like that person, you like getting that attention from them, right? And just like he liked to exert himself and make his presence known constantly with everyone. And like if he felt threatened by a man, like he would just make, even if it was like a joke, he would still like want to put them down so that he would feel better about himself. And I think,
but then later be like, oh, he has nothing on me, you know? Like,
yeah, exactly. And that was just like so frustrating to see, of like, people don't deserve to be treated that way. And like, I get if you have like your insecurities and whatnot, but like that is not okay. But yeah, anyways, that's like me going on a tangent. But yeah, so I think like his day to day, like whether it was like his one-on-one interviews that they would shoot, or like you see his interactions with the guys or with the girls, it showed a lot of that, like exerting oneself, wanting to be strong and protect themselves and be on the top and not lose that. Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you. We did not like Hanu most of the time, but sometimes we tried to, and then we did not. I think I agree. He was super reactive, always wanted to protect himself. And then I think at one point when he finally felt like Hannah was the one, in a sense, he started wanting to protect her. And I think I got like annoyed at that point, because I was also like, oh, by the way, 8s are great.
Yeah.
But
Hannah
was shown in a very stressful 8 light.
Yeah.
He wasn't in a healthy light in this show, for sure.
Yeah.
I saw his wing 7 in the sense of like, he also wanted to consider all the options with all the girls. Like everyone's like, why do you need to do that? But he needed to. And I think it was for his ultimate like fear of not being betrayed, because like if he knows all the options, he knows how to like proceed, and he's still in that power. And so you can see the insecurity, because his lie is that he was once in a boy group and then it didn't work out, so he went back home to his cow farm. And I think that's like, it's a fear of like, how is that perceived? If did I fail? Was I weak? Was I not good enough? And so there is some two-ness in there as well, which is in that path. So yeah, I agree. And I think like he needs someone that's good, that can accept all of that, you know? And I don't think Tao's type actually fits that. From what, maybe we can talk about that later, but I think Hannah's type fit that, right? And it doesn't mean she's the better choice, even though she was our top girl. But it's that she might be a better fit for someone that has that kind of personality to love on that, because then you saw some more like softer sides of Hanu later, which was really which was pretty cool. Which is like, oh, like there are good sides, but it was hard to like him this time,
because he wouldn't acknowledge what he was doing, or he wouldn't ever apologize. Even when there was opportunity to apologize, he didn't. He chose not to, and that was frustrating.
Yes. Matt just finished cell and walked in, flabbergasted that we're doing a podcast.
All right, next up is Han Daon. 1, 2, 3.
2.
Oh, 2.
Why?
3 is a high one too.
I wasn't for sure about her either, but
Do you want me to go first?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So for 2, and I don't want to make her 2, but
Maybe secretly I didn't either.
yeah, but like, so I was thinking about it and I felt like she was what I think like in her video, she wants to be like loved for who she is. And so that could be a 2 or a 3. I think she has a strong wing 3 because of her lie was that she was in a 5 dolls girl group and then now she's in freelance modeling and stuff like that. So definitely I think there's a strong 3 in there because she's always surrounded by like image and achieving in that sense. But I feel like in a lot of her conversations and in conflict, she was misunderstood a lot and she absolutely hated that. And like 2s hate being misunderstood, like absolutely, and needs to resolve it and clarify it. And like that's when I was like, oh, she like needs this, you know? And like so then I was trying to think, and this is obviously where the analysis that shouldn't be done is coming from, but I was like, oh, like even why is there a need to like talk about all these guys? Like, why is she asking Hana to wake him up? But maybe like there is like this, because she was the closest to Hanu the whole time.
Yeah.
And even for me, like if I go through a breakup or something, it's not necessarily the romantic part I grieve, but it's like I just lost a friend and I want to still be friendly. And she's like trying to do that versus a lot of other types might just cut it off for different reasons, but might not need to feel like, oh, I have to be friends with all of them. And like, I don't think it was necessary or appropriate, but I feel like that was the side that she was coming from. And she cried a lot. And like, I'm not saying 2s cry a lot, but that's why I wasn't sure between the 3 or the 2, because 3s are kind of more like deceitful about their emotions. Like they don't let themselves feel as often sometimes. Like, so that's why, like, unless it's like more broader things, but she like, she had a lot of those times that made me wonder that. And she, so I feel like she is a 2 high wing 3, but maybe not like either a sexual or a self-preservation subtype.
Oh, so interesting. I was thinking 3 wing 2.
Right.
Yeah.
I would assume some.
Okay. Yeah. I think for me, it was like in her. No, I can see where you're coming from for sure. I think the thing that got me was like in those conversations, she would be so like, oh yeah, this guy likes me and this guy likes me. And I got so much attention. Like there was a comment she said of like, I like that. I'm grateful that I got so much attention from you guys. And I think that's what made me think she would, because 3 is not necessarily, it doesn't have to be like achieving in terms of like work or like other things, but in general of like, oh, if this is a quote unquote dating competition, I guess it's not kind of a competition, I guess, of like trying to be the most liked person. I think that's what made me kind of think, oh, she is a 3. But then I did think about like, man, when she sent that text to Hani and be like, oh, rest well, or like, it's okay. And I think also maybe why I didn't think she was a 2 was like when she noticed that Hani was so stressed and things like that, she just like noticed her and thought that, and she didn't act upon it in that moment to go and comfort her when that was. And it was like she shared in hindsight of like, oh yeah, I noticed she was like this way. And then now she's so emotional and there's all this stuff coming out of her that then in that moment she was like comforting her. But yeah, it's hard to say. I think it was hard for me to see like how like, because I didn't see her desiring for like the depth of the relationships. I saw her desire more of like being liked by, which I guess it falls into the people pleasing, but I feel like it was more like how many people like me. This is how much attention I got. And then her also wanting to still pursue that dream of being on stage and like that kind of stuff too, of like, oh yeah, I still have this dream of wanting to do that. So that's why I was thinking 3, wing 2. But yeah, I don't know.
Cool. All right, next up, we'll do Bakangyol. Come on up. 1, 2, 3.
5.
4. Oh! Oh, 5 was my second. Oh, yeah.
Oh, he thought he's 4.
Yeah,
I
think
see it. I
think he had a lot of like envy type things in a sense. And I don't know. I just feel like, okay, let's look at 4 and 5.
Type 4 is a romantic individualist. Core fear is being inadequate, emotionally cut off, plain, mundane, defective, flawed, or insignificant. Core desire is being unique, special, and authentic. Core weakness is envy, feeling that you're tragically flawed, that something foundational is missing inside you, and others possess qualities you lack. And core longing is you are seen and loved for exactly who you are, special and unique. Type 5 is the investigative thinker. Core fear is being annihilated, invaded, or not existing, being thought incapable or ignorant, having obligations placed upon you, or your energy being completely depleted. Core desire is being capable and competent. Core weakness is avarice, feeling that you lack inner resources and that too much interaction with others will lead to catastrophic depletion, withholding yourself from contact with the world, holding on to your resources and minimizing your needs. And the core longing is your needs are not a problem.
So the reason I ended up choosing, so I put 4-wing 5 or 5-wing 4, but the reason I chose a 4 was because I felt like he couldn't really like choose, I guess, in a sense. Like he was always jumping around from people. Like it was first Taon, but no, it was first Tahe, then Taon, then at the end it became Sulbi. Oh, and Hanel was in there too. And I think, I don't know, I just felt like he had a lot of like, not envy, but like it was like with the guys too. Like Taon was the big one, like not the big one, but like the favored one in a sense. So like he also like gingyot into that. But at the beginning when Taon wasn't popular, technically he wasn't interested. Like Tai seemed like the more obvious choice. I don't know. And then towards the end, it became like Tserbi. He also felt like he found his like beauty in creating photography. And I think that was kind of like a beautiful moment because he did struggle with depression. And not that 4s struggle more with depression, but I think 4s have a lot of emotions. And even though it might not be seen, he doesn't seem like an emotional person. I felt like there was a lot of layer. And when he shared that part, I was like, oh, he's had to deal with emotions for quite some time. And now he's at that place where maybe he can like handle it better or disguise it more. I don't know. The wing 3, the 3 maybe in the sense of the success that he wishes he has or hopes to achieve versus like what maybe didn't come into fruition. And then I do see a lot of 5 as well. I also like he is someone that seem to be sleeping earlier than others, and 5s do have an energy depletion that others don't have as quickly. So I was thinking, oh, energy depletion, maybe he values his rest, but also he was being like very like listening in and like kind of being manipulative. So that's when I was like, what is your motive with that stuff? So yeah, like I think his personality resembles a 5 for sure. But I wasn't sure if his like inner motives resembled the 5.
That's fair.
So you go.
I think that's why, like, because it's like the investigator, the observer, that was so much of like what he was, right? Of like, he would be so like sneaky in his conversations with people to obtain so much information about other people of like, oh, what happened here? Where are you at with that? But he never shared anything on his end. It was like as if he was just gathering all of that for himself. And I think that's where I felt like the avarice or like the greed of like, oh, let me know everything so I can choose what's best for me, rather than it being like a genuine like connection point with that person of like, oh, let me be there for them as a friend, or like let me engage with them in this way to develop that relationship. It felt like a more like, oh yeah, I'm gonna use this time and energy that I have to get all the data that I can about each of these people, and then I'm gonna date whoever I want to. Because also,
but he
like,
failed.
Yeah, but then it's like, because even his lie, he like lied about his age. Like he's 37, but he said he was 25 because he said he didn't want that pressure of like a serious relationship and just to be able to date because he misses or he hasn't done that in a while, and he feels like in his age he can't do that. And that also felt more like a selfish thing, almost of like wanting to engage. Like, let me just see what everyone else is like and what do I like, what do I not like, and then deduce to, like, who do I want to date with.
What's a 5? A 5 path is an 8.
Yeah, 7 and 8. So 7 in stress, 8 in secure. Which...
And then a 4 is a 1 and a 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I still don't feel either way about
honestly,
him.
He was so hard because I feel like he manifested so many different things. And the biggest thing that stuck out about him was how manipulative he was.
Yeah.
But I think that was like, I like
He's
every
so
time I saw him,
manipulative.
my body would just tense up because I felt so like, oh my gosh, he's not trustworthy. Like, he's so scary.
There was
so
this scene
scary.
where because he seems trustworthy and he uses that.
Yeah, like no one there could see
And like
that.
he was supposed to wake up this guy named Taeyang who wanted to wake up the girl he was interested in, but Hangyeol at that time was also interested in her, which is Taeon, but he didn't. But like
But
he just
didn't
like
even wake her up though.
yeah, and he didn't wake her up. That's right.
yeah.
Is he maybe he can't be a 4 because 4 is but I so sometimes then I defer to 9 because sometimes I feel so sure about something. But then 9's what they go through other.
He's not a peacemaker.
I guess the only 2 5s I know, I know them in healthy states. So it's like hard for me when I do try to think of like people I have talked to, which is why I couldn't land on the 5. But it sounds like it could be the 5 too.
All right, next up is Gang Da-hae. 1, 2, 3.
7. Standard 7.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, the joyful person, the enthusiast, the adventurer, like that was like that was like everything she exuded was like, even like I think about, it's funny because the last episode, that huge moment of like there was so much tension in the room because Honey was still so emotional about her lie being revealed, and because there was so much tension, she like decided to go get her designer bag and be like, oh my gosh, I've been waiting so long to hold this. Like, to me, rather than it being like insensitive, I think she was so uncomfortable in that like this person is in so much pain and wanting to help alleviate that with humor of like, guys, like I've been wanting, which I mean, I think her timing was off about that, but I felt like when I saw that moment of like, oh my gosh, yeah, she was so uncomfortable that she wanted to deflect that pain or like that uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah.
And just like in general, like everyone would be so like have so much fun around her, and she was such a bright spirit, and like she had so much like joy and had so much fun, whether or not like she had her main man like Tensor with her the entire journey, but even when she went on dates with other guys that she didn't like, that were like assigned to her, she still had fun with them and like would like engage with them, be in conversation with them and things like that. And so yeah, I feel like she was like a great depiction of 7.
Like a 7 as free spirited as can be. Yeah, I also had the Chanel bag incident that you were sharing. And then Chansor's video was shown at the end, his lie, and I was like, oh my gosh, Taya didn't look at her. So Taya's lie is that she's very wealthy. She spends about like 15 to 30,000 a month. 15,000 a month with her allowance that comes from her family that she doesn't work for. And yeah, so for her she didn't look into Chansor's lie, and there's a part that she is accepting and she doesn't care because no matter what, she'll love him kind of thing. But at the same time, I do think there was an avoidance of any reality in the pain that could come with knowing something, and she wants to enjoy and have a good time in this space. And then after she finds out at the end, going outside of to the real world, it might not matter. So that's when it might be the better timing. And so that was a clear, like, how do 7s also have an optimistic view by shielding out pain that sometimes might be more welcome by other types. So that was something I also wanted to mention. And I mean, like, her upbringing is very like get what you want. So of course that's going to create a mindset of I don't want to be deprived because you're always getting what you want. And so she seems to be a very healthy 7 because there's no stress that really seems to enter in what we've seen.
But also like even when like Tensor confronted
she accepted
her,
that very healthy.
confronted her about like, hey, that wasn't very like mindful of you to like whip out your designer bag at that time. Like she took that in so well.
She's like, oh, this man can take care of me in the way she needs, which is not financially, but taking care of in a different way.
All right, speaking of, let's go on to her boy, her man, Mo Chan-sor.
Our favorite. The true MVP.
The true MVP. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3.
3. Okay.
3-wing 2, I said.
Heavy 2.
Yeah, heavy 2. So I was like debating between 2 or 3, but considering his lie, that's what made me, yeah. But
Oh, yeah. So this is where like I really, he reminded me of Hanur's personality too, my friend, I guess. I don't know if, not the compliment that Chansor's the best. That's not translated. But just like in certain ways of like his humor, Chansor like had a lot of humor, brought a lot of joy. He was also super helpful, but I think that helpfulness goes back to his image too, of like his, like what he wants to be perceived at, which is not like a fake image, but it goes back to that, right? Like alleviating and creating that space. And I think when he corrected Tahe at the end about her Chanel bag, like I think that is also because of like an image-based reason of like that's not the time, like read the room in that sense. And but he says it in a very like assertive and loving like relational way, which was really cool to see. And then like I don't really know, so his lie is that he didn't graduate from high school. He didn't graduate from college, or he didn't go to college. And I think like at first I could understand, but then he ended up being one of the best hairdressers for men. And so technically he's quite successful, once again reflecting his achiever spirit. But that's still something that would be his lie, because he does want to hide away anything that masks incompetency or something that he might not be able to live up to, because he is a very competent person in that sense. And so, yeah, I think I loved how he had great relationships with people as well, which I think 3s are really good. I think 2-wing 3s and 3-wing 2s are often mixed because there are a lot of similarities, and then you really have to dig to the core. But I think he has a strong wing 4 too, in the ways that he can creatively like express even like his fashion, his the car kind of is more not, but like the fashion part and like even his job as a hairdresser has a lot of that in there. So I think the 2 is strong, but I think the 4 is just is pretty big too.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything you said. I think that was like the main thing of like how he wanted to, even though he's so successful, he still felt somewhat like a little bit burdened by the fact that he didn't graduate or he didn't go to college, because like in his last relationship he shared that their parents weren't okay with that fact. And so it's like I could see it going into that of like feeling like not like being worthless, because even though you're successful now, the fact that you didn't go to college, like that's such a definitive thing. And just like in terms of like being popular, being well liked, being able to lead and like do so much for other people, like he was just so like intentional in that way too. So yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that you said. That was the biggest thing. Yeah, I like debated between 2s and 3s because he was so good at being relational. But I think you're right. Like I think it was like also the part where it's like they can go into like the 6 of like he kept mentioning how he wants to be married and he wants to have that like secure relationship, that made it more like, okay, maybe he is a 3-wing 2 more than a 2-wing 3.
Okay, great. Last but not least, my MVP of the show. Wait, who's that?
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. I forgot. I forgot.
How could you forget that one?
That's true. Okay, not last, but definitely not least, my favorite of the show, Bak Hanul.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
9. 9-wing 8. That's what I put.
I put 1.
Oh.
Yeah. I think I was choosing between 9-wing 1 or 1-wing 9, but like I said yesterday, I think she reminds me of Danielle a lot. And I know Danielle's 9-wing 8, but yeah, I'm still pretty like, because I think of, she might have been more 8, but I think she became 1 maybe because of her child too. But I think there's 1 in like, anyways, you go first.
We could talk
like one of the reasons I thought it was more 1. So we both agree on the 9.
Yeah.
She even said it herself, like, am I a pushover? When Hanu was kind of like putting her a second. And it was really frustrating because obviously she was such a great catch. But what was it like? So Hanu's lie which I got second. There's a couple I thought, but she has a daughter, and she's 7 years old, and so that was the lie that she came in with. And I think the reason I also thought one was like things like she didn't drink or something. She was like, there's reasons I don't do certain things because it might look wrong as someone that is a mom or stuff like that, which like I wouldn't think that, but that was something she had said. Or like reasons why she might be more quiet or reserved in this setting, even though maybe she's naturally more could be outspoken or whatnot. That's why the one kind of came out to me in the show. But yeah, the 9 for sure. Like she definitely goes with the flow, gets along with everybody, is enjoying. It's like is a joy to be around, and for the most part, didn't really go through any conflict. Had a lot of peace. Really reminded me of Danielle as I watched it. There was one part where I think there was like, when she said something, I was like, I can see Danielle doing that, which is different from male 9s versus I'm like telling everyone Danielle. But yeah. So
I love you, Danielle.
Yeah.
I agree, because even though there are times where it was so frustrating how she was being treated by like Hanu or other guys, she didn't react to it, but she was so understanding and willing to talk through it.
And then she didn't choose them.
Exactly. That's why I thought wing 8, in the sense of like, dang, that was almost like a power move of like these two guys. She knew that these two guys were interested in her, and in the end, she was like, nope, like see y'all, and like went to this other dude that was like not even in our radar. I mean, I guess kind of, but that was like super left field.
Who did she choose again?
Hangyo.
Because I think she just needed to choose somebody, and that's why. It's okay, Hannah. It's okay. Don't worry about it. You're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's why I thought she was like a wing 8, even though like she made
so the
certain
reason
comments.
I don't think she's a wing 8 is because she waited till then, or like she couldn't say it in their face, or like she did if she was asked, like type of thing. But like she made unless she made Hanu think Hanu was number 1. I don't know. It's like weird.
But she told him no.
No, in the circle thing.
Yeah.
But like
I don't think that's a rule. Like you can't of the show. Like you can't like be that.
Like you have to choose someone.
Well, that too, but it's also like you can't like show like all of your feelings like that. Like you have to, I feel like, I'm just protecting Hunter. That's it.
I guess,
no, we love her.
Yeah. I think it's more so like I felt like she was doing that to protect herself and her child more so than it being like a moral code of like this is the right thing to do. That's how I interpreted it, but I can see like where you're coming from for sure. But I mean,
she's our favorite.
You say that wings are prevalent in both, right? Like
that's why she's definitely both for sure.
Yeah.
All right, and finally, how could I forget Gang Taeyang?
But Chubakak.
1, 2, 3,
4.
Yeah. This is the one that like started the conversation of us being like, oh, we should like see what we think is each person's Enneagram, because for him we were like, oh my gosh, he's such a 4 in like certain moments. But yeah, I can see why you feel like he might be another one.
I know. Yeah, so I mean, we definitely thought 4, and I still think 4.
Yeah.
I just think he's also heavy too, which is in his path.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm against it.
Yeah.
And I think towards the end is when I felt comfortable with the 4, because he said he wanted to be seen as he is type of thing. And like, and as he is special and unique is what 4s do want to be seen, where he's willing to be an X-rated dancer so that he can do the dance that he loves. His lie is that he's an X-rated dancer. And so I think in that sense, he wanted
to pursue modern dance.
Right. His major was modern dance. Yeah. And so I think in that sense, it's like he said, I wanted to go where like even the applause was there. And so I was like, because I don't know if 2s would do it that much to where they, I think they are so people pleasing that they might not do that, even if they wanted to. So that's where the the caveat is. But he was pretty like confrontational in a lot of settings, which is why I was like, there's an 8 path in there or something. But you know, like other paths can be like that too. So yeah, ultimately what a 4 has a 2 in stress and a 1 in health. But I think we mainly saw the 4 in him.
Yeah, I think just like him constantly talking about how like I'm the jealous type. And so like I know that I like someone if they don't reciprocate, that I don't like it. Like he said that so many times that I was like, okay, that's like a very like 4s typically like to be very special and like want to, and then the envy part of like him getting jealous there too. And then also like being oversensitive in the sense of like he didn't necessarily like when there was conflict between him and Taon, I can understand like sure if you're part of it and you want to take ownership of that, great, but then it's like he kept saying it's my fault.
Oh yeah, a lot of self-blame.
Yeah, instead of like recognizing.
I guess that's why I thought he was a 2, because I do that stuff to myself. That's why I couldn't I related with Taon and Taeyang so much as a 2, and that's why I felt that. But I, there's a 4 in our 2.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's why I felt pulled to the 2, because I was like, there was a time I was like, am I a 4? So yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's just those are the reasons I was like, but because I'm a 2, that has those feelings so much, I felt biased in why I wanted to choose a 2, even though I was so confidently he's a 4 the moment he came out. So,
but I think it's different because for us it's wanting to be loved, but for him he wanted to be special.
Yeah. No, but the other stuff you're being reciprocated. I like being reciprocated a lot for stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
And then 100%. The Town stuff, that's why I feel but I could relate with Town. That's why it's at towards the end I was like, oh my gosh, and that's why the Enneagram is a self journey and stuff.
Yeah.
But it's quite interesting.
I think for me it's he would be so stuck in his head.
I'm stuck in my head. I had to go against. I mean, I know I chose him to as a 4, but these are the reasons why I was like, wait, I am going through these things too. That's why I was confused with myself. But to me, he was clearly
That's
a
true.
4.
It is confusing.
But the certain things, which is why I do like the Enneagram, because it's not just one type.
Yeah.
But that's why.
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Yeah. And I guess for me, in my mind, of whenever he would confront other people, that was him tapping into the 1. When he had that incident with Hangyeol, when he thought he was older than him and he overstepped that, and he's like, no, because that's not okay in Korean culture, right? So in my head, that was him being hey, that's not okay, or know your place kind of thing. But anyways.
But it could also be protecting the power as an 8.
I guess so.
Because
that's true.
You know what I'm saying? That's why it's hard. I agree with you on the 4, but I'm that's why I was I don't know, because he confronted things when it came to relational aspects, not if it was even hunger, that's a relational thing, or Town was relational.
I don't want to be.
I know. You don't want to be the X-rated dancer. Anyways,
but also him willing to be committed to doing something that he knows isn't typically accepted by people. For the sake of him being able to express himself, feels more 4 than 2.
I agree. I agree with. That's the main reason why I believe he's a 4, because a 2 would not for the fear of people in a more because of that so I agree with you. I just couldn't mentally get there.
No, I totally get where you're coming
from. Falling asleep.
No, it's been very, very interesting. Learning a lot.
Do you know who you are now?
Oh, who are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh,
we're fully aware of who we are.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I'm in the same boat where I'm not sure if I'm a 2 or a 4. I believe I'm a wing 3, but I'm either 2 or 4. So I guess it's a good transition from Taeyang, because you also were debating whether he was a 2 or a 4. And I was paying attention, of course. So I was listening to what
We should have talked about Taeyang first. Because, towards the end, I'm sure you're like, oh, Enneagram.
No. I was getting ready for my next question.
Okay, what's your next question? We finished all the Enneagrams.
Well, no, do you think I'm a 2 or 4?
Oh, why don't we ask Becky? Because I know you a little too well.
Yeah.
But I don't know you well enough.
Have you noticed any, I guess it's more behavioral, not intrinsic here.
Yeah. I feel like you are the helper. Like you embody the helper of but then I think it's.
But a healthy 4 is a helper.
Exactly. Okay.
You gotta
No, I think when it comes to.
Because she hasn't seen you in stress or conflict. Wow, Opa and I haven't been in conflict this whole time together.
Until tonight.
The 4 of creative, right? Talents. That's the field that you work in. So if I think of that way of being able to read the room of I remember Njini saying oh, it's helpful to have him here because I don't necessarily need to communicate anything. He can pick up on what I need help in, and then he just does it. And I feel that's more of because 2s can get in their head of do they want me to help? Do I not? What if it's burdensome if I do that, even though I know it's helpful? But then, right?
That's true.
In that sense. And
so you also don't know.
Well, I don't know him well. I don't know his core fears or his experiences.
But we did this activity and he did 50-50. It's we did all the subtypes, we did all the styles. It's very split in the middle.
I can see more of the 4 than the 2.
Oh, okay.
Based on comments that you've said about what y'all's relationship dynamic too, and then also how he just picks up on things.
Because a healthy 2 is a 4, and I think my brother's.
What does that mean?
Well,
That's
so
true.
a growth path. When you're in a healthy state, you also reflect the good traits of another type. So type 2, when I'm in a healthy place.
Is this a segue into how Alex began?
Yeah, because right? I think my brother's in a healthy place right now. And so he embodies both. I think he's also something that was interesting. He's an emotional safe space for me, which has not been the case in the past. But that's why I was oh, is he an 8 when he was stressed? But I don't know now. I don't know, because I also see a 4.
Tune in next week.
Yeah.
Okay. Any last words on Pink Lie?
Is anyone together? Didn't you say you looked it up or something? And you told us?
I did look it up. Okay, so at the end of the show, 2 couples ended up together. Chansol and Dahe, of course. That was a no-brainer. They were together from the beginning. And then the other couple was Badum and Sulbi. There were no articles about whether they're together and stuff. I think I did read something where Dahe had commented on a YouTube comment, saying that, she was no longer with Chansol, that it was for show. There's some videos I'll show you guys after where a few of the contestants go and get a haircut from Chansol. And they
that's so cute.
Yeah, and they talk about some stuff. So we'll go watch the one with Bottom, but I'm pretty sure he's not with Surbi anymore either. Yeah. Just based on some of the stuff that they were talking about. But yeah.
And I think that's the only reason I don't like Korean reality shows is because it is fully performance based, and not that they should be together or not. And then it gets messy, but I like to see the emotional investment kind of play out in the real world. But maybe it's better to just be healthy and cut off all ties, because social media world is so toxic to the American trash TV world, for sure.
Yeah, I think that was one thing I said while we were watching it is even though these people might be great or whatnot, it feels almost forced, because it's you have to pair with someone in this group. So even if you don't like anyone, you still have to choose them, which is a hard thing to do. And so it's almost forced relationships. And sure, I think some of them made genuine connections and things like that, but I think that also made it difficult.
I agree. Well, this was so fun. Oh my gosh, I'm excited for next episode when Oppa figures out his type.
Is that how you're going to close? How do you usually close the episode? All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoy the show. You're welcome for recommending such a fun and entertaining show. I know I set the bar high, but watching you guys watch it made me realize, what, it is a great show. No matter what, I wish more, they would have stayed together, but then it's a fun show, fun characters. Everyone go watch if you haven't.
And thank you, Becky, for coming on and gracing us with your knowledge and insight. I hope to have you back on the pod.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think clearly you are the Enneagram superior.
No, I think you gave great example. Even if I might in my head have learned more, you're a great explainer, and I think that's great. So, check her out at mentalhealthcounseling.com. That's not the real. Sorry.
Well, but in hindsight, this is like the two in me, but I hope you didn't feel like we were judging these people based on their actions or things like that. We know that everyone has their stories for why they are the way that they are, but also it's just things that we picked up on, and it's just helpful, at least for me with my job. It's helpful to continue to practice deductive reasoning or things to think about or consider and explore with different people. So it was interesting and fun to
it's a two-wing one in you.
And did you have your disclaimer?
No.
I was judging them hard too.
I think I want to do more of these is what I feel. This is so much fun. So shoot us another show that you want to know the Enneagrams to, and I will commit both of us to binging and analyzing, as we would like to say. Not judging, analyzing with much joy and fun.
Yes.
And so with that, thank you for another fun episode of Color Commentary.